Welcome to this February edition of the Fellow Mind Fabric Frenzy. I'm Jan.
I'm Jacob.
And we have the pleasure of presenting a lot of new releases for you from the February long list of February releases for Fabric Power BI.
And it's a big one.
It's a big one. So we have a tight schedule.
Very tight.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for joining us. We've got a couple of things on the agenda today. We've got a coverage of some of the new releases where we will be sort of doing a quick rundown on some of the features that we've cherry-picked from this release. And then we've got a couple of highlights with some DBT, and you will be showing some calculations.
Calculation groups.
Oh,
yeah.
And that's a big one. Everybody's looking forward to that. So let's get on with it. Well, like I said, today's agenda, the new releases. We've got a spotlight on DBT and Fabric. We've got a demo of the calculation groups in Power BI. And
the trick of the month.
Yeah.
I will not say anymore at this point, but it's
mum's the word.
It's a hidden gem.
All right. Excellent. Let's get started with it. Visual calculations.
Oh yeah. Visual calculations is something that we've been waiting for years. And it's finally here. And I will dive into my Power BI and show you a really quick demo of the new visual calculations. So when you see this report on my Power BI desktop, you might notice that I have this table at the bottom, and I can now, with the new visual calculations, create a new calculation like this, and I can start working within the table. Everyone that's familiar with DAX know how insanely difficult it is to work with row context. And this is the row context of a table, and I can write a measure in here, and I can say the profit is the sales minus the cost. And there we go. And voila! I have a whole new column that's calculated from my table. And the joy doesn't stop here because we can do some things that used to be very difficult. So let me show you. If we have a sales compared to yesterday. I can't spell, but you'll forgive me, won't you?
It's all right.
I spell better when I can see my screen. Yesterday, and here we go. I can add one of these new functions, for instance, versus previous, and this will give me the context of the row before. So I can say, what's my sales, total sales, minus my previous total sales. And I can add this. Boom. Okay. What a horrible demo. If I go into this one, I can edit my calculation. And okay, it's because of the scrolling. I couldn't see it, but it was actually there. Wonderful. So this is something that used to be very, very difficult inside Power BI. So it's there, and it's really easy to work with. And we have all these new functions that you can see by pressing the FX. And I just love it. And I hope everyone will embrace this new feature.
Looks very intuitive, actually.
It is.
Yeah. Great. Next one up. Dynamic subscriptions for Power BI reports. Another welcome feature.
Really, it's something that many customers have been asking for over the years. It was something that we have in had in reporting services back in the days, but now we can actually send distribute reports that are filtered by some sort of context. And maybe if you're like a demo of this one, we'll do it, but we haven't got the time today.
True.
Enough said. Well, one thing though, we can, for instance, send reports that are filtered by our salespersons. What are the sales from last week? Or we can send reports that are filtered by something like, why haven't they sold enough? Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's really useful, and I'm sure the community will like it.
I'm sure it will be embraced by users.
Yeah.
So,
what's up?
What's up?
Okay, the measure descriptions with Copilot. I am a developer, and I do not like to document anything. But now, luckily,
you'd be the first developer I've heard that saying that.
yeah. Now, Power BI can help me document. If I select a measure, I can go into the model view and select a measure and open the property pane and click Copilot. Of course, this is a very simple measure, and it's not working with very complex measures yet, but I'm sure it'll get there. But I pressed the Copilot button and I got this description. Profit measure calculates the profits by subtracting the total cost from the total sales. And I'll keep it. And now my Power BI measure will be updated with this description. Isn't that neat?
Really neat.
I think it is.
And a great example of how the Copilot features are creeping into almost anything we do.
Oh, yeah.
With Microsoft projects these days.
We'll be out of a job in no time.
Hopefully not. Next one up is DAX query view improvements.
Yeah. So we've had the DAX query view for some time. And this is also something that I think we should do a demo of one day. But the DAX query view does a lot of the things that we had to do in DAX Studio, but now we can do it in. Now we can actually write and debug our DAX directly in Power BI, and it's gotten a little better. And we've gotten these new info functions that I'm very curious to see what kind of information we can use that for in the future. But they're not documented yet.
No. But it sounds exciting.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Well, next one up.
Oh yeah,
is another enhancement to the collaboration features that have been sort of developing in the Power BI space.
TMDL.
And yeah.
How do you pronounce that?
TMDL.
TMDL.
TMDL. Yeah, for short. All right. Well, talking about collaboration, do you fancy a game of PBX tennis?
Oh, yes, I do.
I think most developers actually don't, but I think you're all pretty well aware of some of the obstacles that we meet when we are collaborating on the same reports or semantic models working with Power BI files. I start out doing something, I send it to you, and you put your work into it.
And then we save at the same time.
And then we save it at the same time, and yeah, then things get lost. Well, this situation actually improved quite a bit with the introduction of the Power BI project files.
Yes.
And they introduced a JSON format for the Power BI.
Wonderful JSON, as I always say.
Yeah, you just love editing directly in JSON files.
I do.
Yeah, because you like that. But there's been a further enhancement to that with the tabular model definition language, which is introduced as a preview feature. This introduces sort of a better. I know you really like reading JSON files, but it introduces a new and more readable format for the semantic models and the contents of those. So you're actually able to see, perhaps you can see on the screen here, that you've got sort of a lot better styling of the document. It's more readable, and it's actually also editable in external editors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very exciting.
So now we can actually work on the same Power BI file at the same time.
Yeah. You can actually collaborate on the same Power BI files. And there's an extension out for Visual Studio Code where you can work with these TMDL files.
I can't wait to get started.
No, I bet you can't. As for now, you can actually save. This is a preview feature that you can select in the Power BI version. You can also choose to save your Power BI files as in the new TMDL format. But once you do that, it's irreversible. You can't go back to the old project file format. So unless you have a copy, so strongly suggest it to take copies of your files when working with it.
It sounds like something I've heard before.
Yeah. It never happened to you though.
Nope.
No, sorry. Right. Next one up is the customizable navigation pane.
Oh yes. The customizational navigation pane is really just a nice to have. If you show my screen, I will do a quick demonstration. Really, it's just a matter of editing the buttons you have on the left side of the screen. So I can unpin my apps and my metrics and all sorts of buttons that I used to have. And if I want them back, I can click down here on the dots and get them back. Wonderful feature for working on tiny screens, I guess.
Yeah, and also, I think, recognizable if you're working with Visual Studio Code, where you've got pretty much the same.
Indeed, and I'm sure that there are buttons on this left side of the screen that no one use, that someone don't use all the time.
Yeah, so more customization user experience.
Indeed.
Focus on what's important. Yep. Next one up is one of our highlights.
The DBT.
DBT and Microsoft Fabric. Back in August 2023, I was here, and we introduced the DBT core integration with Microsoft Fabric. At that time, I showed a demo on how to use the DBT core feature, which is essentially a Python library that you download and run and code the extensions for locally on your machine. And when you deploy it, if you want to deploy it, you can actually deploy it in a virtual environment or through some sort of virtualization in Kubernetes or something like that. Very interesting. It introduces a more developer specific workflow for working with a lot of the ETL processing, setting up your models and working with them. You have to sort of get used to working with your SQL code in a slightly different or altered form.
What's the abbreviation here?
The abbreviation for the file names is actually, or the abbreviation for DBT.
Yeah,
is that
DBT.
All right, it's the abbreviation for DBT, or the DBT abbreviation is actually Data Build Tool.
Data Build Tool.
Yeah. So this is actually a development platform where you can sort of set up the code for your models. You can work with different sort of abstractions within the code. You can have, it's based on a templating language. Most Python developers are probably familiar with the library called Ginger. So it's template based, and you can actually sort of enhance templates. You can inherit from other templates when you use it. DBT has been used in a lot of, I think, people coming from a Snowflake background on something like that has probably been working with DBT throughout a longer time. But the integration is available now for Fabric as well, either through the DBT core, which we introduced in August. And this is not really a release for the February release. It's actually just a catch-up of something that happened in November last year. But Microsoft and DBT has introduced a new feature on the DBT Cloud platform, where you can now integrate with your Fabric environment.
Excellent.
So you get the SSAS experience from DBT Cloud, which is a cloud-based platform for developing and scheduling and running the builds of the projects. So you get sort of a more unified experience, and if you're not coming from a specific developer background, you can sort of collaborate with other developers in the same cloud platform.
And it's very expensive, right?
Not really. But it is more expensive than the core version, which is actually free.
Okay.
But I've just made a quick rundown of a quick comparison of the two platforms. Both of them are actually built on the same code base, DBT Core. When it comes to the deployment of the code that you're working with, the cloud version is a SaaS solution, so it's a fully packaged solution. When you're working with DBT Core, it's a local or virtualized environment that you're working in. You can develop locally, and you can deploy to a virtualized platform where you can run your builds. Yep. As for the user interfaces, you get a full browser ED experience with the SaaS platform, the cloud platform. When you're working with the core version, you're working with more of a command line interface and Python code.
Does this mean that I have to reinstall Visual Studio on my laptop?
Not when you're working with the DBT Cloud. You can work directly in the cloud environment.
Good stuff.
So no need for developer tools locally on your own machine. Sorry. Just a quick rundown of the...
Ooh.
Somebody is actually running around with the... Let's try and see if we can stay here.
Yeah.
Right. As for the scalability, obviously when you're on the SaaS platform, you've got high scalability. It's a cloud-based platform. If you're working with DBT Core, well, you're pretty much on your own. You have to set up every running environment yourself. So obviously you've got restrictions in terms of the resources you've got available. With the cloud experience, you get automatic updates of the code base, where you are sort of, you are sort of stuck with separate versions when you're working with the core versions. You download a specific version of the DBT Core and work with that. One of the greatest features probably about the DBT Cloud environment is that you've got a fully available environment for working with scheduling and running your builds, which is something you have to initiate manually on the DBT Core platform, or if you feel brave enough, you can start working with tools like Apache Airflow or Dagster to orchestrate your builds on the cloud, on the core platform.
You say all these wonderful words.
I know. With the DBT Cloud, you also get the integrated CI capabilities, which are not really available for DBT Core. You have to set everything up on your own. When you're on the cloud version, you get official support from people behind DBT. With DBT Core, you're stuck with the community and everything you can learn yourself.
Okay. I like support.
Yeah, true. Especially if you're running enterprise solutions, it's normally a great thing to have. As for the customization level, well, the customization level or the extendability of the cloud platform, obviously being a SaaS platform, is lower than it is on a core platform. Again, it's essentially a Python library. You can extend it. And the greatest difference, of course, is that if you want to use it in a production environment, there's a cost for running the cloud version. Currently, it's listed at $100 a month, covering one project, up to 8 developers, and 15,000 builds.
Okay, that's not too expensive.
So it's not too expensive. That was a quick rundown of the core versus cloud. Hopefully, one day we can make a demo of the cloud environment in integration with Fabric. I'd love to come back and do that.
I think many of us will actually love that. Can you go back to the slides of the features?
We can indeed.
Okay. So a few more things that we got this month, and I know stuff on the right side of the screen. That's technical, but anyways, we do have the domains in OneLake, and we had a chat about those.
Yeah.
Domains is a thing that they shipped over the last year.
It's
or so.
I think domains have actually been available in a preview for quite some time. They recently introduced the subdomains as well. So now you've got several levels of domains that you can work with in your basically when you are restricting access to your Fabric environments. You've got multiple layers where you can actually work with your access to different layers of the platform.
So domains is a way of ordering your workspace,
organizing your workspace.
Yeah. And now you have subdomains.
Yep. You've got domains and subdomains.
Do you think there will be subdomains in the future?
Probably.
Okay. And what else did we have? We had we had the Git integration.
Yeah.
And I actually had quite high hopes for the Git integration.
Yeah.
When they started talking about the the Git integration, I was hoping that it would fix some of the issues that we had with the Fabric of not being able to distribute properly and move towards
between different repositories. Or
just truncating stuff and.
True. Yeah, this release is actually support for the Fabric REST or Git integration REST API. So you can use the REST API through either PowerShell, or I think if you're gutsy enough, you can also try Python code to work with the integrations for the REST API. And probably, hopefully, I haven't looked into it much, but I'll try and investigate further on it to see if it actually solves some of the problems we seems to be having with, or some of the difficulties that we have with working with repositories in Fabric.
That's on your side of the table.
I'll take that.
And then we had a lot of real-time analytics, and that's all wonderful.
Yeah.
And then we had at the bottom something that made my toes tingle.
Okay, great.
The Dataflow Gen 2. Talking about Dataflow Gen 2 is all. Then we're talking about something good, right?
Yep.
And then we had the Copilot in the Dataflow, which was kind of very interesting for me, because I was very fond of the creating columns by example in the Power Query experience, and I was hoping to get that with a bit of Copilot on top, and I think that's where they're going with it. But we'll see. We'll see in a few months once they get the corners
probably need
rounded.
to mature a bit yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we have
the floor is yours, I think.
Yeah. Then we have on by a customer request, I promised to do a quick demonstration of calculation groups in Power BI. And this is something really good because we always had to use Tabular Editor, which is a wonderful tool, but not very user-friendly. And we had to use that if we wanted to create calculation groups.
And it is an external tool.
It's an external tool. There's a free version that you can use, and of course there's a paid version. But the free version would give you calculation groups, and I'll explain what they are.
Yeah.
But now we have that feature built into the desktop experience, which is
awesome,
mind-boggling. It's awesome. So let me demonstrate. I cheated a bit and built some of it in advance because we have a very limited time. Very, very limited time. If I go into the model view of my desktop, you can see that I have the tables and I have the model section on the right side of my screen. In here, I have calculation groups, and I can create calculation groups by clicking New Calculation Group. And I have already created one calculation group called Time Intelligence that has 2 measures inside that uses the selected measure function.
Yeah.
The selected measure function will reference any measure in its context. And I created a very simple last year function around the selected measure, and I also did a total year to date. And then I also made another calculation group called relationships, and inside that I had 3 measures that basically shifted the connections between tables with the function of use relationship. Yeah. When you have an inactive relationship, you use relation to activate it.
True. Yeah.
And I created that. Basically 3 measures, quite identical, at least in the pattern. So once I had these measure groups, I could use them in my Power BI report. If you look at my matrix visual here, I have really basic reporting measures: total sales, total profit. These are sum functions, yep. And you can see them in my base measure folder over here. And I can then create a slicer where I drag in my relationship, and I can use that to filter my total sales and profit measures, yeah. or not filter, but change the context.
Yeah.
Of these new relationships. And I can even use this active relationship inside my visual. If I put it in the column, and maybe I remove the and I deselect the due date, like so. You see, I have the 3 columns of total sales in the with the various user relations.
Yeah. So you get the pivot result of the
exactly. And I also created another calculation group with the last year and year to date, and this could be any type of time intelligence. And I can select those, and I can have the year to date, and my total sales and my profit will follow the new business logic. And I can combine these 2 and use them together. And I could have had more measures, yeah. Or more calculation groups. I could have had a conditional formatting of cells in my matrix. I could have had formatting of currencies of various types, and just select them with a slicer. This is amazing.
Yeah, and really great stuff that is now incorporated within Power BI itself, and
it is
visually available and useful.
I should have had an hour to present this in further detail. It is wonderful.
Great. Well, that was
go to the last
pretty
slide.
much.
It's very important.
Yeah,
we need to have the last one. There we go. Marks. So, as a new feature in this Fabric Frenzy, we will suggest a new idea from the idea board, where users go and suggest an idea and other users vote for them. Great. And Microsoft is actually pretty good at prioritizing their development of Power BI in Symfony with this user prioritization and user suggestions.
So that is really a good chance to get your voice heard.
Yeah. And of course, we have a suggestion, and we will put those in the chat below the YouTube video.
Great stuff. Well, we're running a little over time. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this useful, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.